William Howell is missing in action.
Is he coming today? Oh, okay.
What's up, man?
Hey, you were all, your ears must have been on fire last night.
Wow.
I was at Jim Crisp's house all evening, and we just got to talking about you and didn't stop.
Oh, I love Jim.
He just thinks the world of you.
Well, I think the world of him
I do too, and so we just got to talking about it. So
Well, good. I'm glad.
he's he needs all the prayer that you can lift up right now.
Going on?
Robin's gonna die in the next couple of years. I just left his house to come here, so help.
What is it? Cancer?
It's kidney failure. He's had it for 10 years. It's amazing. He's had stage 4 kidney failure. Jim's fine. He's just breathing it and tired. Helped raise me too. It's
I love them both.
Yeah, I'm sure that's been what Jim's been doing a lot.
yeah. My mom ran one of the hospices here for 20 years, and so we've been getting the right people in the house and liaisoning with the doctors and as best we could to get him home. He just became very clear while we were in Tulsa that he just needed to go home. So yeah, it's gonna be sad for the whole community. So he lived a beautiful life, and I am very happy. Hey,
Doing all right?
yeah, so.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Macon-Bibb County Pre-Commission meeting. Today is Tuesday, October the 3rd, and the time is shortly after 4:30. I'd like to welcome everyone here to City Hall and officially call this meeting to order. We do have several items on the agenda. I'm not aware of any executive session items, and our regularly scheduled meeting for the commission will be at 6 o'clock tonight. So at this time, we'd entertain a motion to approve the approval of the minutes. The approval of the minutes from September 19th pre-commission meeting. Can we get a motion to approve? Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Clark, second by Commissioner Wynn. Any questions regarding those meetings? No questions. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries. We're going to move on to appointments to authorities, boards, and committees. We have one of those tonight. This is a resolution of the Macon-Bibb County Commission appointing Ken Blair to the Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful Board. Mr. Blair is here. As you recall, recently we appointed him to the Macon Transit Authority. I've already congratulated him earlier for being one of the top 40, under 40 in the state of Georgia, including our own Mayor Pro Tem Seth Clark as well. So I'd like to congratulate both of those gentlemen. Mr. Blair has certainly been getting involved in our community. We appreciate all the good work he's doing out at Wesleyan. And tonight he comes as a recommendation from the Macon-Bibb, Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful Board. So this time we'd entertain a motion for approval, Mr. Blair. Got a motion by Commissioner Lucas, second by Commissioner Bronson. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries and will be sent to consent agenda. Thank you for being here tonight, Mr. Blair, and all of our folks here supporting him in this matter. We're going to move on to new alcohol beverage licenses. We only have two tonight, thank goodness. The first one is Balaji Investment Group, DBA Sherling Food Mart, located at 815 Sherling Drive. As my understanding, that legal recommends approval of this item. They have met all legal and statutory reasons, including the good standing letter. So this time I entertain a motion for approval. Motion by Commissioner Wynn. Do we have a second? Second by, is that Lucas? Yeah. Commissioner Lucas. She sounded very excited over there. We do have a motion and second. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Nay. That motion carries. Will be sent to consent agenda. Item B is the Cotton Ranch, which is a final denial. As you recall, we previously had a letter sent to us from the state and some other issues there at the Cotton Ranch, and we agreed to deny that. Hearing was set out, or a letter was sent out to the particular petitioner, and they did not file a hearing request on that. So this time we'd entertain a motion for a permanent denial or a final denial on this matter. So I'll entertain a motion. A motion by Mayor Pro Tem Clark, second by Commissioner Raymond Wilder. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries. Will be sent to consent agenda. Going to move on to special purpose local option sales tax. As you recall, we have items 5A and items 5B that's previously sent to you. One of those involving a timeline adjustment, and the other one involves the actual appropriation of funds. Both of these involve Pine Hill, Hollingsworth, and Mead Road. Pine Hill and Hollingsworth are the sidewalks that we've been talking about for a while, and then the Mead Road was the commercial area there that we've had a lot of problems with that needs to be repaired for commercial reasons. And the total amount is 1.250. That's $1,250,000. This is a resolution of the Macon-Bibb County Commission to approve the 43rd Amendment to the 2018 SPLOST project timeline and budget as presented by the SPLOST project manager. Can we get a motion to approve? Motion by Commissioner Wynn. Do we have a second? Second. Second by Commissioner Mayor Pro Tem Clark. And Commissioner Lucas, you have a question?
Yeah, you specifically mentioned those sidewalks, and you are right. Hollingsworth Road was originally approved, gosh, I know it's been a long time. It's been more than 3 years because it was done in another, anyway. And then Pine Hill is one of those streets where they don't even let buses, school buses, go down it anymore because it's so narrow, and people have to get over into the ditch in order to avoid being hit by cars. So it really is dangerous. And those are two things that have been on you know, they've been in the works for a long, long time. So I'm happy to see that we're taking care of those things that are left over from even previous administrations.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Lucas. I do appreciate yours and Commissioner Tillman's pushing forward on both of these projects. I know that these two at least are in your district, and it's been a long time coming. So at this time, you already got a motion?
You got to.
We have a motion and a second. We have a question by Commissioner Watkins. Commissioner Watkins?
Yes, thank you, sir. I was just curious, what was anything being moved, pushed up or back to make this happen?
No, sir, we just moved this forward, make it happen. Nothing's been pushed back. Any other questions? Hearing no questions, will, Commissioner Bronson, you have a question, sir?
What was the locations again, you stated?
We have Pine Hill, Hollingsworth, and Mead Road, and I believe Mead Road may be in your district.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. That's what you want me to say, that's in your district?
No.
Appreciate you advocating and bothering me every day to make sure they got paid.
I appreciate your support, sir,
Yes,
on
sir.
this end.
At this time, if there's no further questions, we'll move forward with a vote. All those in favor of the vote to move this up in the SPOS timeline first, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That motion carries to be sent to consent agenda. Item B is the same project, but this time the appropriation. This is the ordinance of the Macon-Bibb County Commission to authorize the appropriation of up to $1.25 million for the 2018 SPOS proceeds allocated to SPOS projects as specified herein. This is the same Pine Hill, Hollingworth, Mead Road that we just voted on. This time I entertain a motion for approval. Motion by Commissioner Wynn. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bronson. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That motion carries and will be sent to consent agenda. We're going to move on to appropriations. This is several items combined in one ARP, American Rescue Plan appropriations. And we have one person that will be presenting the first, and then we'll do all the rest. I'll do all the rest myself. But at this time, we have an ordinance in the Macon-Bibb County Commission to authorize the appropriation of up to $9,353,000 in American Rescue Act funds for the purpose of funding various projects authorized in the American Rescue Plan Act, and to final rule concerning the expenditure of local government assistance funds under the American Rescue Plan Act. That's a lot to be said, and I'm going to go ahead and ask Ms. Terrence Collinsworth, if you don't mind coming up to the podium there. Ms. Collinsworth, as most of you know, I'll have her identify herself in just a moment, is running the Community CIS program. I'll let her tell you a little bit more about what the Community in Schools is and what this particular grant is. And we'll, I don't know that we do the 22-page PowerPoint. I think she can handle without doing that. We do have it if you need to see those screens. But she can tell you enough about that project with our school system, and this is some matching funds. My understanding from reading the materials was that this is specifically going to be covered as a match for John R. Lewis Elementary, Weaver Middle School, Westside High School, and SOAR Academy, up to $353,000. And the priority areas for those particular schools are attendance, behavior, course performance, and basic needs. So this time I'll turn it over. If you'll please identify yourself and tell us a little bit of information about this request that you've made.
I'm Taryn Collinsworth. I'm with Communities and Schools of Central. I'm the Chief Executive Officer, and first I want to thank one of my board members for being with me here today, Mr. Adric Ingram. I am lucky to have a really great board, but most of them couldn't be here today. I also want to take.
You don't mind speaking into that microphone a little bit more, Ms.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, that's better.
I also want to take just a minute before I start to say thank you for your service to the public. I know that it is an often thankless job, and so I just wanted to take this moment as a taxpayer to say thank you. We are currently in 12 schools in Bibb County. They are all school improvement schools. That means they have been identified by the state as needing comprehensive help. We have been there for the past 3 years. The school district has funded us at $636,000 a year to serve those schools. Those schools have about almost 8,000 students in them. We serve almost all of those students with Tier 1 services, which are school-wide services widely accessible, where we might broker in programs. Can y'all still hear me? We try not to be duplicative if we can help it. So one of the things that we've done this year is we had Keep Making Beautiful come in, and they've served all the third grades. We served 6 elementary schools. They've served all the third grades. And then they've also served the middle schools and the high schools with different kinds of service learning. So we also do what we call case management. It's a we call it a tier 3 service. And that service is at least 10% of the students in all those schools. This past year, we served 822 students with case managed services. And that means that we have a person, we have a contract with the district, and even when we don't, we have a relationship with the district that allows us to place a person inside the school full-time every day, and they serve those students. They see those students at least 30 minutes to an hour every week individually, or, thank you, or in small groups. And when I say small groups, I mean 3 to 6. So depending on whether or not that student has some type of basic need, or whether that student has maybe behavior issues that require individual services, they may be seen individually. If there's a group challenge, if we can do sessions on conflict resolution with them, we might do that. We do tutoring, reading tutoring, math tutoring. We've just started a mentoring program at SOAR Academy this year where we have 14 mentors serving 19 students at this moment. I mean, it's a new program this year. We believe in bringing programs into the schools. We broker them in. But what we really believe is that relationships are transformational, and that our empowerment coaches who are in the schools every day making a difference with those students, being there when that student is having an issue, when a teacher calls and says, please come to my classroom and get your student. And we might bring them back to our office, talk them off of their ledge, help them catch up with their schoolwork that day, and then put them back in the next classroom. It saves teachers from having the distraction of having to take a student up to the office and have them written up. So the classroom maintains the learning environment. That student doesn't end up out of school or an in-school suspension, so they are served as well. We believe that the model that we put into schools is the best around. Now, we work with a lot of people. We work with Rebecca Pace, and they do a lot of really great work as well. They're one of the services that come into the schools. So we believe in being there every day, doing whatever it takes to make a change for those students, and we intend to serve them as long as we can. So one of the things that I'm asking for is that with this money, there are some other funding pieces that are leaving after this year. We will use this funding to match a grant that's already been written that will serve the Southwest Zone, 3 of the schools in the Southwest Zone. 2 of the schools in the Southwest Zone this year, the state of Georgia picked up our contract because they believe that communities and schools is a best practice. These services will fund our West Side Zone, which we're already doing right now with sustainable services. And then we will also pick up this funding package will allow us to provide a match that will allow us to serve 2 to 4 more schools. We're waiting to see what kind of funding we get, but the package together will allow us to serve about 10 to 11,000 students next year, we believe. So that's what we anticipate. When you get a report, you'll get a report on all the services that we're providing since this package is a match to it. And we will come back and report to you. We report to the school board at the semester end. And then again at the end of the year, if you want more information, we'll be glad to provide some information that talks about services between now and then, outcomes we provide at the end of the semester and the end of school.
Okay, thank you for the explanation. I've got 3 lights on, so we'll start with Commissioner Lucas with your question. Actually, that's 4 now. Mr. Lucas.
The parents. And I know that you have to have a strong parental piece to this in order to impact the students. But talk just a little bit about how you involve parents and direct services that you might have in the pipeline for parents.
So I'd like to talk about 2 strategies that we have. We were asked into this project because after the pandemic, attendance was so low. And so one of the things that we do is in the morning, when the bell rings, our empowerment coaches get out of their seats. They know where their students are located in the school. They check to see if their students are there and in their seats. And if they aren't, they call home to see what's going on. Oftentimes, if somebody's overslept or if a parent's working and a child didn't make it out the door, we can get that child to school. When they do reporting in the schools about attendance, it doesn't happen until after 10 o'clock. And by that time, sometimes it's too late. Parents don't bring kids to school at that point. So that's one of the ways that we involve parents, because when we talk to them, we get to hear what's going on, what the challenges are for that parent. If maybe they don't have a car, maybe they've moved, maybe all different kinds of things can be happening, but we have those conversations with them. We work closely with family engagement coordinators in the schools to bring parents into the schools and to provide not just services to the students in the schools, but to those parents as well. I'll give you for instance, we had an incident last year where we heard that there was a door missing on a house. It was, the mother was afraid to ask for help. She was afraid if she did, she would lose her children. And we were able to get a construction company to go and put a front door on that house. And then that parent wanted to be involved. So sometimes alleviating an issue for a family that they don't know how to ask for help about is a way to get people involved. So those are some of the ways. We try not to be duplicative of what family engagement's doing, but we
Right.
try to partner with them.
Well, the other thing I wanted to mention is I'm aware that y'all have talked with adult ed at Central Georgia Tech for the GED program. Y'all have also come to my little school, our little school, where students can receive their high school diploma. So I would encourage you to make sure that that remains a part of it, because a lot of times when the parent is stuck, the children are stuck. And that's a giant step ahead when parents are able to receive that high school diploma. It opens up a lot of doors. So I would certainly applaud the program. I'm very familiar with it. It's been around a long time. And encourage you to please, as much as possible, get as many of those parents to finish either their GED or the high school diploma, if possible.
We will certainly add that piece. We do some of that anyway when it comes up, but we will make that's a great suggestion. I will add it to our portfolio of services.
Thank you. Commissioner Tillman, you have a question, sir?
Yes, it is a pleasure to be seeing Carolyn and even Adric, my military friend over there. We know those kids are in good hands, been knowing y'all's program over 15 years, and just thank you for all the work y'all do. One of the things I don't think y'all probably highlight enough is like when these kids are out of dress code, as opposed to sending them back home or what have you, that if they don't have a belt or whatever, that's where y'all come in and y'all do certain things like that. So if you can, just briefly speak on that, because that's more important. I think a lot of times when those kids are out of dress code, and y'all are right there to dress them and keep them in school.
So we consider that a behavior intervention, because what happens to those students is they end up in ISS or out of school, if they don't have a belt or if they're out of school uniform. And we try to keep school uniforms in our closets. We also work closely with family engagement on that, because sometimes they already have a closet in the school, and we just help make sure that it has everything that it needs. But we are often, because our folks are seeing students as they come in, they all work the car line in the morning. We do make sure that the students that we see that might be out of dress code have some type of option for that. We provide school supplies. This year we added to something that I really like a lot. Y'all are gonna think it's silly, but I like it. There are pencil dispensers that look just like straw dispensers. And so in the front of the school every morning, we take the pencil dispensers out, so any kid who doesn't have a pencil with them can get one before they go to class. We try to make sure they have the tools they need to succeed, always. And we do food. We do backpack buddies with the United Methodist Church. We do a lot of different things. So when I say whatever it takes, we do whatever it takes. Sometimes it's simple as a kid needs an umbrella because they walk to school. Sometimes it's really hard. A parent needs a job and a car. So there's a variety of things. Sorry, you shouldn't ask me to talk.
That's the mistake. We have Commissioner Wynn and then followed by Commissioner Bronson.
Thank you.
And for all the information you've given us, because a lot of this I didn't know about. Two things, back to the parents for just a minute. Do you find it difficult to get them involved when they need to be? Is there resistance there, or do they come forward and do what needs to be done? Secondly, what age or what grades do you work with, or all of them, and you work with different issues with all of those? So kind of three questions.
Okay, so what I would tell you is that most parents love their children.
Yeah.
A lot of parents don't know exactly how to make that work in their child's favor. One of the first things we do when we talk to parents is we ask parents what their goals for their child are. Oftentimes, nobody's ever asked them that question. They've never been asked into the decision-making for their children, not because it's a malicious thing, but it just hasn't happened. So I don't find that they're resistant. I often find they're overwhelmed. They have so many things on their plate that they're trying to, spin that plate, and they've got another plate they're spinning, but not resistant necessarily. So as we fix the things that are a problem for them, they become ready to come into the schools and help. Some of them also don't feel, when Commissioner Lucas is exactly right, some of them don't feel competent to come in and help. So as they receive more support, they feel more able.
I think it's very important for the parents to be involved. That's where it starts, at home and with the parents. The second part of the question was what grade levels or what ages that you work with, and I guess they work with different problems or issues.
So we work with K through 12.
Okay.
We also have an alumni program, so we follow students after they leave us. We have currently six elementary schools, 3 middle schools, 2 high schools, and SOAR Academy. We do a school assessment to see what the challenges are for the school that year, and then we try to bring in services to serve all the students. Each student gets an assessment as well that's on our caseload, so whatever their challenges happen to be, we work towards mitigating those barriers for them.
And who would have ever thought you needed a pencil dispenser?
Who would have thought, right? I love it very much. It makes me very happy. I know that's so silly.
Thank you, Commissioner Wynn. Commissioner Bronson, then we have Commissioner Watkins.
Hey, thank you once again. For the ones that are just tuning in, can you give me the name of your program again?
I'm with Communities and Schools of Central Georgia.
Yes, ma'am. Hey, so thank you guys for what you do. I've had the honor of working with you all in the school system a while back, so I completely understand what's happening with you guys now. Just out of curiosity, when it boils down to community partnerships, JRTC, and business partnerships, how does that play a role with your program now in 2023 going to 2024? How does that look for our students? And is there anything else that we can do on our end from the city and or if business leaders throughout to assist?
Be careful what you ask.
I know, right?
So, so in 23, 24, so after the pandemic for a year, really, we didn't have volunteers back in the schools. So they were just beginning to pick up last year, and this year we're kind of back full force. So we have, we work with Dr. Washington and Dr. Rogers. So we work with a lot of the business partnerships. We work with a lot of the civic organizations. One of the challenges that an organization who's not in the school all the time finds is that if they have a program that they can deliver, somebody has to schedule that for them. And so somebody has to coordinate that work. Somebody has to figure out which students can attend, what's appropriate. And so we do all of that.
Okay.
Make it easy for them to come in and deliver their services. Did I answer your question?
Yes, ma'am. I know working with Dr. Washington, we recently took a group up to the Pentagon on Monday. So that was a great deal there. We had 2 students per high school from each ROTC program that came in. Took them up to DC. They had a chance to meet General Adams and talk about cybersecurity and some amazing things that the Pentagon offers. So that's one program that we are initiating that is being ran through you guys. So thank you so much for your support on that end as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bronson. Commissioner Watkins?
Yes, thank you. And again, great work your program is doing. Really appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time today. I was curious on the 6 elementary schools that you were working with. What was the process for the additional 2 to 3 that you mentioned? And how many, I guess, employee caseworkers or empowerment coaches I might have heard do you have?
So we have an empowerment coach for each school. We are serving 6 elementary schools. We're serving, do you want me to name them?
Yeah.
So we're at Ingram Pie, we're at Matilda Hartley, we're at Southfield Elementary, we're at John Lewis, we are at Union Elementary, and we're at Veterans Elementary. Was that 6? I have to go across the city. So the new schools will probably be middle or high schools. They haven't been identified yet. It's kind of in a funding package. The schools that we have identified to sustain are in the west side zone. It's John Lewis, Weaver, West Side, and we would like to sustain SOAR. And we are seeing really great results with this mentoring program there already. So that's what we have identified. And when I come back to report, we should hear more about these grants, and I will share that information.
And it's great information. And I hadn't talked to anybody, just off the cuff. I was curious. Had you talked to anyone or had any considerations about Bruce Elementary?
I would love to serve Bruce Elementary.
Is there a way we could help facilitate such a thing?
How much power do you have?
I guess we can talk. We can talk offline, but I wouldn't mind helping with that though.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Watkins. Thank you, Ms. Conway. If you don't mind having a seat, or we finish with questions for you. This is part of a 6-part essay, and we're going to start section 2 now on this ARP funding. So I'm going to move right along to section 2 of this ARPA funding. This is the Macon-Bibb County Commission does hereby approve and authorize the appropriations of up to $1 million for American Rescue Plan Act funds in accordance with the regulations issued by the United States Department of Treasury to provide funding to Atrium Navicent for health initiatives, including indigent care and trauma care, and also as care as relates to the violence. Previously, I know at least one commissioner had mentioned the possibility of having some funding in connection with the interrupters to be considered. At that time, we tabled that particular item, but wanted to make sure that we reached out. I had reached out to Atrium Navicent regarding some indigent care. As you understand, we completely eliminated them for our budget for the last several years. And there's a lot of reasons for and against that, but we have an opportunity here to do about $250,000 for 4 years to help with indigent funding, care they provide they don't necessarily get paid for, as well as the trauma-related care to violence. And we would enter into an agreement spelling out those terms at a later time on what that would entail as far as the violence part once that's taken care of. But this is a $1 million American Rescue Plan. It's certainly allowed by that. And I think it's a way that we can give money back through a separate source when we haven't been able to provide it in our regular budget. So I'm going to move right on through these. If you have a question, you can stop me at each one. Section 3 is the Macon-Bibb County Commission approving or authorizing appropriation of $1 million for American Rescue Plan in accordance with the regulations issued by the United States Department of Treasury to be provided funding to the Middle Georgia Regional Airport to provide for a minimal revenue guarantee, which is MRG, to attract additional carriers to serve Middle Georgia Regional Airport or to support additional routes from the Middle Georgia Regional Airport. As many of you know, we've been trying to improve our airport. We've been very interested in not only doing a new LPO there, but also extending the runway, which we're in the process of doing now. But we hear all the time, not only from our business folks out there and the folks we currently serve in our hangars there, that they like some more commercial alternatives, whether it's different routes to other parts of the United States or perhaps different carriers that we may have. So this is $1 million that we would set aside in a fund that would be used just like we do Contour now. So if you think about it, you had a 30 people on a plane, and that plane goes from here to, let's say, make up a place. I don't want to say it. People think I'm, from here to Charlotte, North Carolina. So we go from here to Charlotte, and there's 30 people on there. You wouldn't use any of this money. So we will, did I say something wrong? We would have a 30-seat plane. All the seats would be booked. You wouldn't tap into this money. But if we had 28, this money would pick up for the other two to make sure that was a full flight. So our goal would be to make sure all these flights are full and go to different places to expand that. We're certainly interested in expanding our commercial operation out there. This is a first step in the right direction, and I think this is a perfect opportunity to be able to use funds for this, and that's what we'll be asking for regarding that $1 million that will be set aside for that particular purpose. Just like we did Contour, just like we approved just a few weeks ago. So this would be different carriers perhaps in different locations at the same time. So any questions regarding that item before I move forward? We're going to move on to Section 4. Section 4, Macon-Bibb County Commission is hereby approved and authorize the appropriation of $1 million for an American Rescue Plan in accordance with the regulations issued by the United States Department of Treasury to be used for provision of community violence interruption services. As you know, we have funded in the last round ARP some community violence interrupters. We had a conversation not too long ago where we agreed to get with our criminal analysts, our Macon Violence Prevention leadership team, and the Sheriff's Department to review the successes and challenges that we have from those that were awarded the previous contracts. We plan to do that at the end of January and hope do an RFP to have that finalized by March or April. This is our attempt to go ahead and put money aside, to set aside money to make sure that when we get to a point of review that there's some money there to distribute, and we will draft the RFP at that time. Also neglected to say, and early on this, I know someone had a question earlier. Previously, we estimated about $18 million remaining in the ARPA funds. This would get us to about $9 million, give or take. There are some things that we funded before that have not been expended, and we will revisit those as well to pull those back in to either repurpose those or try to distribute those funds out. But this is what the $1 million is for the violence interrupters, and our plan would be to bring that forward to you after we've had a chance to review all the data that we collect at the end of the year. Gonna move on to Section 5. Section 5 is Macon-Bibb County hereby approve and authorize the appropriation of $3 million American Rescue Plan Act funds in accordance with the regulations by the United States Department of Treasury to be used to provide funding to visit Macon as an aid to our tourism industry. Certainly, I think everyone in this room could agree that our tourism has really been knocking it out of the box. We've received a lot of awards, and despite the sales tax pullback that many of our communities that are similar situated in Macon-Bibb County have had, Bibb County has continued to move forward, as evidenced by our recent OLOS that we had a substantial reduction in our taxes because of that additional pennies. But also, we continue to lead the area in sales to get new tourism here. I believe is in part and parcel with Gary Wheat and his team. One of the commissioners had sent me an email earlier, asked me some questions about what we used to funding last time, and just wanted to give you just a small sample of this funding that went before. Capricorn Songwriter Series was granted these sub-grants, Macon-Bibb Bicentennial for our bicentennial celebration, the Macon Arts Alliance through their Macon Music Strategic Plan, Macon Music Review from Grants Lounge, Omogie Mounds Association for the Omogie All Things Connected, Even in Respect Homecoming, Otis Redding Foundation, Tubman African American Museum, Tyler Perry Expedition, the Friends of Douglas Theater, Making the Stage, Museum of Arts and Sciences, their Storywork Garden, 567 Center for Renewal Visiting Artists Workshop Series, Omogie National Park and Preserve Initiative, Macon Pops through their Macon Pops concert session, Fort Hawkins Foundation Program and Operations, Cameron Gillen and Magnolia Soapbox Derby, Justin Andrews Macon Film Festival, 100.9 The Creek Storytelling Campaign. I can go on, and I'll give you a few more. The Concert and Crawl Arts and Kids Festival through Bragg Jam, the Gav Fest 2022, the Georgia Allman Brothers Band Association, GSSA Cheerleading Carpet through Macon Centerplex Coliseum, our Veterans Day celebration and Cherry Blossom Festival, the Christmas lights that we have enjoyed downtown, the Nutcracker Ballet, All Hands Art Festival for 567 Center for Renewal, and the Big House Foundation Music Education and Event Center. Those are some of the ones that we used for funding before to do these sub-grants. All of those are very wonderful projects and add a lot and enrichment to our community as well as tourism. All we're asking to do the same thing we did before is to give them the money to do the job that we appoint and select them to do, and I think they've done a pretty good job of it. So that is the $3 million for that. The next section here, I think it's the final section, is the Macon-Bibb County authorized and approved the appropriation of up to $3 million American Rescue Plan funds in accordance with the regulations issued by the United States Department of Treasury to the Blight Elimination Revolving Fund established under Section 684 of the Macon-Bibb County Code of Ordinances to be used for the purpose of demolishing blighted and dangerous structures and clearing and acquiring such lots as to transfer to the Macon-Bibb Land Bank Authority for sale to develop or to build quality affordable housing. In particular, this item here is to re-up the amount of money we put in our blight. We want to make sure that we'll be able to fund this for a long period of time. Initially, we put, I think, $5 million in that. We're approaching 600 items that we've been able to remove out of the community. We also had funds that we gave for our land bank authorities to start purchasing some. So when we engage the other funds in a separate account for the Affordable Housing Fund, we'll be able to have money to lend there at a cost. This is particularly, though, for the remediation and blight that we have in the land bank. This has nothing to do with the Affordable Housing Fund. And basically, we're putting another $3 million to go ahead and appropriate the fund to meet the deadline that we need to meet to have those funds readily available and to continue that project so we don't stop in the middle of the great blight program that we do have. Those are the 6 items that we've included in this packet, and those are 6 items that we're asking for your support for ARP. That is the amount of money that it would total up to, and I've given you the amount that we believe that are approximately left over on there as well. And I had a couple of questions from commissioners, so we'll start out with Commissioner Bronson. I had your flag on first.
Hey, sir, thank you so much for that rundown in regards to the funds that we have that we're utilizing. So in regards to the, I guess, tourism, great work on to that team that's out there working hard to ensure that we are providing a safe, beautiful environment for people to come in and visit. So in that regard to safety and cleanliness, recycling bins has been a discussion that I've asked about in regards to the downtown area and surrounding areas. Some of the cleanliness, or should I say blighted areas, to include cleaning downtown, South Macon, Houston Avenue, East Macon, and so forth. In using those funds, can those funds that we have be utilized toward purchasing the recycling bins for downtown area, and or if, when we start talking about blighted areas and empty lot, vacant lots, that's one of the big issues too when we start talking about blighted areas. We knock down a house, that lot just sits there, then what? So is there a way for us to utilize that to either A, close down some of those roads that lead into the blighted areas, and how do we go about doing that? So I think I talked with legal earlier regarding a road closure, and I'll tap her on the shoulder in a minute, but can those funds be utilized to do that particular project?
Well, I think you sent me an email just shortly before our meeting today about 10 items. Most of those items are going to have to be covered with Ms. Julie Moore as far as a one-on-one, as far as regulations. We're probably on our third or fourth regulations, and sometimes each of those requests that you have may not fit in a certain category. They have broadened that recently to include some infrastructure, so there could be a possibility. I think we can make the argument for recycled bins in that. I don't think it was a prohibition of purchasing the bins. I think it's the labor and staffing and the part of the budget to actually have someone pick those up. So if you want to move on to those other items, we'll kind of do it as we can if you want to.
Okay. That's on the list now that I've already given you?
What's that?
That's on the list that I've given you?
Yeah, I mean, any questions you have that's related to this particular ARPA funding, some of those things are related to other things that I'll be happy to talk with you about or later proposal, but as it relates to this ARPA, I'd like to keep it contained to what we're talking about.
And that's why I was kind of trying to hit around the recycling piece. I know that
Yes,
dealt
sir.
with the beautiness, not the beauty, but the tourism piece of it. And then, of course, when we start having tourists come to the city, we want them to be able to know, first and foremost, that they're safe. And then the other part of that, too, deals with the concept of having clean areas for them to go. So it's not just a downtown piece, but surrounding areas, right? We have areas that's off of Houston Avenue, East Macon, parts of North Macon, right, that we know of that could utilize some of those funds. So we really want to focus in on that. But I know going back to the discussion that we had a few months back, I did request a way for us or to review means for us, and forgive me guys for that, for us to review ways of putting recycling bins in the government facilities and of course throughout downtown area with the trash cans, just to kind of get us started on that piece of it. And I know there's a lot that goes into the recycling piece of it. I'm with you there 100%. But at least if we can kind of start that discussion. Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful has been doing an amazing job with trying to address the illegal dump sites. But I think if I was a tourist coming in and I cut the corner on the wrong road and I got a stack of mattresses and tires, I'm gonna feel a certain type of way just by doing that, that one action. I'd be like, I'm ready to
Don't
go.
recycle
So.
any of those, but I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Recycle bins is a little bit different than those things. Those are illegal dumps that we've been picking up, but I certainly understand. And while we're talking, I do appreciate Commissioner Bronson and his district's been advocating for additional funds there. Part of the funds that we've got contained in this, he had asked for around $1 million. We're going to far exceed that amount for the Houston Avenue area. As you know, that this is one of our qualified census tracts. We've been targeting the area from all the way from Eisenhower Parkway through Bruce, all the way to Rocky Creek Road. A lot of our demolition has been done over there. A lot of our purchases of property have been done on there. We have a great project coming online with Cliffview Lake in the very near future. And we are going to be paving some roads in that way as well as that road there. So a lot of these funds are used in that area. The Affordable Housing Fund, when we get everything situated in that particular fund, a lot of those properties there will be qualified because a lot of the land bank purchases are happening in that area. So this particular one takes into account your previous request to add additional monies there, and that's what we heard, and that's why we're doing it this way. We know it fits the ARPA guidelines.
I know in regards to Houston Avenue, and we spoke briefly this week, and thank you again for that. Food desert, which I know is not in this discussion here, but while we're on that, if I may, addressing the food desert, I know that there's a program. Could you kind of elaborate a little more on that program in regards to how citizens can utilize that or the way they need to go about utilizing it to get a grocery store in that particular area?
Well, we have talked about it. And matter of fact, I was on the phone with the state officials probably 30 minutes before. We have a real challenge for food deserts. And of course, this body of government put a couple $1 million aside. When I mentioned earlier that we may have some projects that no one is taking advantage of or we haven't got the funds out there on, that's a particular project that we have set aside funds for. We had spoken with a couple of folks about putting a grocery in a couple of food desert areas. No one has taken us up on that yet. That money is going to have to be either repurposed for another venture, or we're going to have to engage those funds in a manner that we approved it before. So that is, I believe, Ms. Moore, is that about $2 million? Is that right? $1.5 million. We did 500,000. We did the food grants for, and we were able to get that out, of course, to food pantries and outreach. But the other $1.5 million was a revolving loan fund, I believe, for to allow people at a low interest to expand their business or to start a new business in the food desert area.
And what would be the route that we need to take to get to that, to apply for it?
Yeah, if you don't mind, just we don't have Mr. Morrison here today or Ms.
Hey, Ms. Moore.
Ms. Moore, Julie Moore, Assistant County Manager.
Thank you. ECD has it on their website listed as a grant that you can apply for.
Okay. So if I say, for instance, I went to, we'll use Red and White as an example, I could very well go to Red and White and say, hey, gentlemen, there's a program out there. This is a site to go to, and kind of assist them in that end.
Macon-Bibb County, and then look for the department ECD.
Is there a, and I know we try to get away from hand holding, but is there a way that regarding that piece to kind of get them in to kind of sit down with whomever they need to sit down with to make sure that everything's done properly? So I know a lot of times we'll say, hey, we got a program out there, and people will come in and sign up for the program and don't meet requirements, and they don't know how to do the application.
I think you could have them reach out to ECD, and they would help.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, Ms. Moore.
Thank you, Commissioner. I've got Commissioner Wynn and then Commissioner Watkins.
Okay, back to the airport for just a minute. The desire is to have either new routes or new carriers, or both maybe. That would be nice. Perhaps we could ask the public what they want as far as a new route. But let me ask this first. How have we been filling the planes? Is ridership good? Are we having to pay for a lot of seats?
Ridership's been good to Baltimore, but it limits you to one area. Certainly, we like to hear from the community, but bottom line is we have to go where the airlines are going to take us, and they have to look at ridership themselves. I can tell you, I'll say off the record, even though we're on a public mic, is that we've been doing a lot of investigation and research and geofencing, if you know what that is, to see where people that go from Valdosta to Atlanta to fly go to. So we know the area, how far they'll drive to fly somewhere else. So if we see a good market, and we have several markets, that we believe that people are going right past Macon, go to Atlanta, would fly directly from Macon. We think we can easily fill those up. The number one problem right now in airports and with airlines is the pilot shortage. We can't do anything about that except get ahead of the game, so when it's corrected, we're ready to go. This is the first step in the right direction on getting that done, and I think we'll have at least a new route, if not a new airline, very soon.
I would put a bug in the ear out there that maybe New Orleans might be a good route.
We have several. We do a lot
you.
of charters out there too already to many
Yeah.
places, so a lot of those are very popular. And several people just went to Tulsa recently on a trip, and I think they're going to bring back some good ideas on how we can work together with the Muskogee Creek Nation to increase the flight we have from here to there and the business exchange. And part of that may be going out to visit a couple of key places in their area as well.
That's a good thought. That would be nice too.
So thank you for that question. Commissioner Watkins?
Thank you, sir. I guess on the Atrium Healthcare, and thank you for taking time to read and respond to the emails. I heard you mention the violence interruption programs that could or should or would be based out of Atrium. Could you just give a little bit more onto what's happening there, timeline in your mind, and I guess how that 250 works between that and the indigent care I heard you mention as well?
Right. Well, we will be working with, I see Ms. Thomas here today, and thank you for being here today from Navicent Atrium. But we will be working with them to do a contract that's agreeable to both parties. I've met with Vecchio Finley, who's their CEO personally. We've discussed the need for not only the indigent care, but how it relates to our care and violence program and how other things use the medical model and how it could be helpful to us. We're not there yet, but what we wanted to do, again, we wanted to appropriate these funds to have the funds there so they wouldn't be messed with. So we know what we have left and remaining for other projects that may come aboard. And he and I also talked about something we may bring forward again on some child care. Number one workforce issue we have in our community is the miss and middle, which are the women who unfortunately a lot of times give up their careers and other opportunities because they have no child care. So we're working with them as well as other folks to try to increase our child care. So all I can tell you right now, Commissioner Watkins, is we're setting aside $250,000 per year, and those are the goals that we're going to work out on a contract with them. The method about how that's going to do, we're going to use best practices, and we're going to be talking to a couple of folks that's done it already before. And as far as the other things, we're going to continue to evaluate the interrupters to make sure that the data checks out. And we know that they got substantial funding right now up until January, perhaps longer than that based on the current burn rates. We also set aside a contingency within there to have additional funds that will get them into a chance that we can do the RFP on the Cure Violence. So Cure Violence is one of the programs that I liked in the beginning, that I put in our initial Macon Violence Prevention Program. And I do think it certainly has some assets, but I think before we take any formal votes on there, we need to collect the data on that particular issue and make sure what part of our community we think needs it the best. And I want to rely a lot on our MVP leadership team as well as the sheriff and our criminal analysts on that. So, but on the HM part, that's kind of where we're at on that amount. I don't think it's set in stone about how the 250 will be split up, but certainly we're going to try to do what we can to coordinate these things together.
Thank you for that. And you mentioned a lot, but the 9 million that's remaining and the deadline as it relates to the total COVID ARP funds. What is the deadline for the remaining funds to be encumbered, which I guess this would satisfy encumbrance today for these funds?
These would satisfy the encumbrance of these funds. My concern is, number one, the drop deadline, I think, is December 31st, or maybe is it December 31st of 2024 for appropriation, but you don't want to wait to that day. We really like to have all the funds expended by December 31st of this year. When I say expended, I'm talking about appropriated, right. So we know that they're accounted for, because we don't want to get in a situation where we have to send a check back to the federal government. We certainly don't want to get in a situation like the 1.5 million we mentioned earlier on the food desert, that we keep thinking up until next year that someone's going to come in and get this money or qualify for it, and they don't, and we lose it. So we're trying to do things ahead of time. Most everything you see in these items 1 through 6 are from commissioners contacting our office about things they like to see. We've had some about tourism, we've had blight, we've had youth violence interrupters and the hospitals, and we've had Commissioner Wynn and others talk about flights and stuff. So this is a culmination of listening to commissioners over the last several months and putting this in a way with the guidelines that we could best utilize these funds. And of course, as far as the communities and schools, they reached out to us quite a while ago with a proposal. We were waiting on some matching funds for that, and as we try to do in each and every case is to leverage our funds that we have so we can get the most bang for the buck.
And again, thank you for that. And it is noted that you are addressing attempt to address a lot of concerns here. But I heard you mention on the deadline issue, the encumbrance deadline is December the 24th. And did I hear you on when the actual expense, it needs to be zeroed out?
Needs to be out of our pocket and appropriated by December 2024. The subsequent recipients need to expend those funds by 2026.
2026 is
yes,
the last day to possibly spend it. 2024 is
out of our account 2024. Okay. But if I were to give Virgil Watkins LLC that money for a legitimate purpose, then he would need to expend those funds by 2026.
And so a better example may be the Fresh Food Retailers Fund needs to be expended by 2026.
No, sir. That needs to be out of our account by 2024 or we lose it.
Okay, so we manage that account.
We have it with ECD,
okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, and help me just, I'm working quickly over here because I hadn't been able to find the application. Could, at a later today, could y'all send me the link to the application or the place where it is on the website? Again, I'm rushing fast, so I'm probably missing it, but I haven't been able to.
Oh, of course. I think if Mr. Morrison thankfully had a 9-pound, 4-ounce baby boy a couple of days ago, so he's enjoying some time at home right now. I know he'd have it off the top of his head, but he's previously shared that link and how we go through the process, but otherwise I'd have him do it, but I'll make sure, Ms. Moore, when Dr. Moffitt gets back, we'll make sure we send
no pressure on that.
Yeah.
No words on that. But I just know for me, in attempts to find it and communicate some time back with potential vendors,
right,
it was difficult to find. And there is no real brochure or marketing that explains the proposals. And it seemed that would help in this sense. And I think possibly, and I had kind of the same note on the tourism program. Obviously, there is a process to receive awards application. I would love to see some more information about how that works. Is there a deadline or a rolling application? How folks access it? And also on that list, if you could just maybe forward that to us and share so we could see the numbers on what's being expended. Because again, I remember us creating the program and the idea, thought it was good then, and based on your notes a minute ago, it sounds like it's been widely successful and accessible to folks, but I just would like to see some more. And I guess same thing on the Affordable Housing Fund. And that may be a different animal. Maybe
It is.
we could get a update from the director on, because I'm fairly sure that that hasn't started yet, or,
I spoke with the director today. He said he had a personal conversation with you to let you know where we're at on that process.
sorry.
But what I will tell you is that we're moving forward with all deliberate speed. The problem, I guess, is both the pros and cons of federal dollars. It comes with a lot of strings. We've had to navigate this process very critically on how to set up, how to hire a director, how to open up bank accounts, how to make sure the nonprofit was set up, and very good progress has been made. We probably won't be in a position to actually start spending that money until January. But we have, we hired a consultant. We've been through our best practices. We're in the operational assessment right now. So things are moving good. We're going to be happy to, once we start loaning money and have the application process, we've done surveys and stuff with builders and all that, to come do a presentation to show you all the great work this board is doing. But right now it's a little premature on there.
just to clarify, and it was clarified to me if we're talking about the same person, but that was a board member, and that was one of the things that was highlighted.
Everett Werner, he's our chair.
Okay.
Is that who you spoke with?
I was thinking of someone else, but yeah, we were talking about, okay, so the Land Bank Authority is our chair, and that's the full-time director of day-to-day operations, because
No, so he's the chair of the Macon-Bibb County Affordable Housing Fund. Right now, we're going to be selecting who's going to be the director in operations, but we had to get all the stuff set up with our attorneys and with the IRS to make sure we're doing everything we're supposed to do. We have met the obligation to get the funds to a separate account to meet the 2024 deadline, so we have until 2026 to lend those funds out, and that's what we're working on. But we wanted to make sure we had best practices, and we didn't want to reinvent the wheel, so we went to a couple places just outside the state of Georgia for communities that have done this before and have been very successful on there. So we've been meeting on a regular occasion, going over their process and adopting some of those to fit our needs. At the same time, we realize we have a situation where developers are an issue and staffing, so we're trying to look at ways to develop that as well.
but moral of the story, we expect to be able to start expending those funds this January.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. And I guess also on the issue of on the tourism, is that a 1 year, 3 million, or is that over? You mentioned it with the healthcare that it was a 4-year program. Is tourism a multi-year or a 1 year commitment?
It's we expend the funds until it runs out for theirs. On the other, we discussed 250 per year for 4 years. What you want to show is consistent funding back to Atrium Navis over a period of time. It helps for a lot of reasons on a relationship.
So on the issue of tourism, that is
We give them the funds, and they basically, they have the time that they have to use all those funds for, but I'm not sure what kind of installments we'll be paying them, but basically, we gave them money before, and they used it as the grants came up or for operational costs, et cetera.
Out of curiosity, do you recall how much we gave them before and how long it took
$1
them to
million,
spend?
and they got 300,000 left.
Okay, and so they spent it about a year and a half?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I guess the same question on the airport funding cycle, is that a one-time thing or?
That $1 million is until it's used. This is kind of a pilot to see if we're going to be able to take advantage of that. Our hope is that we get other airlines and other locations, and we have a full capacity, so the money never gets used, but we will supplement it as needed.
And on the violence interruption, I know me and you both feel strongly about cure violence. I think that's a good thing. But I've also been curious about the other programs that are less, I guess, less advertised or less marketed or less branded, because I'm sure we have some jewels there as well, because we just didn't fund cure violence. And I hear you on the January, but stuff happens, I'm probably gonna end up is there a monthly or quarterly report that could or can happen that could provide some insight, some data on what's happening? And I have some things, and part of the reason I ask, from time to time I see you and the sheriff on the news quoting data points, which I won't repeat, that contradict what the data analyst from the sheriff's office, and that raw data seems to be appearing. So and it could be a crossing communications or again, my suspicion is it's not an apples to apples thing. When I'm looking at an apple, you're talking about an orange, which could be a quarterly comparison or a monthly comparison or annual comparison. But I just don't know that, and we don't know that without some type of, on paper thing that I think is fair to me and the commission as it concerns crime and public safety as a whole. So, I mean, I know you're gonna do this in January as we've discussed, but in between now and January and has already occurred a whole quarter to that could be reported on. And that's just my question on this, because
What I can tell you, I'm not gonna do anything till January, and the reason is the very point that you bring up. It gets complicated when you start talking about, I may say something today that we're down, certain percentage down on homicide, that may be different this weekend, right? So sometimes you rely on statistics that you're looking at from the census, sometimes you're looking at from the last FBI reports that happened over a period of time. Sometimes we're talking about violent crime and not property crime. So my preference is to wait to the end of the year so we all have the same time and to be able to evaluate the same information, so we are comparing apples with apples. And a lot of times you may not have all the information because some of the information is highly sensitive. Maybe there's some investigations that's going on right now, and there's some arrests that may be pending or some trials that are going through, or we have like the GBI task force and things coming on that's going to make a difference in some things. And we also have, just some other things that are going to be collecting data on from ShotSpotter and other technology that we got in place that we want to be able to present the whole picture instead of keep piecemealing this quarter by quarter. So my preference is to do it at the end of the year. At the same time, the community foundation grants that we awarded just a couple of months ago, we'll give them their time to collect all their data so we can do a presentation all at one time like we did it the first year we had operations of it. So my preference is not to do it quarter by quarter, but we are, that's why I set this money aside, gonna look at it seriously in January and do the RFP if everything's successful and award the money, but at least we got the money set aside.
And I completely hear you, and that's your preference. I would prefer it be another way, but I can understand the way this is set up. I have very little say-so in how that works, but I feel like data is available and processable on a monthly, quarterly basis if it's something that you care about. And again, you're getting data from somewhere if you're able to quote it on the news. And it just seemed like it would be fair for us to be able to see that so we can make informed decisions and provide our people with informed information too. Because I can't say anything if someone asked me, is the murder rate up or down? Like I can base it off of news articles, but officially from the county. And again, same, even more so, I have no data when it comes to ShotSpotter. Like I can hear you say on the news or in the media somewhere that so-and-so is changed by 20 plus or minus %, but we don't ever see that like explained anyway. It's agitating, but anyway, I yield.
No problem. I appreciate the conversation. I will tell you that a lot of those things that we quote in the news are because an event happened. In particular, we had a couple of the nuisance per se that we pulled up. So quite honestly, when that case is being presented in an open court and it says crime is down this particular area in that period of time, that's where I get it from. And certainly you've had a bunch of conversations with the sheriff and contacted him, and he's offered to allow you to go over there and get information anytime you want to. I think sometimes you have to be very, very considerate of the strategic implications when you start talking about crime and data until you've had a year. So I don't want to get too much involved in that and have a back and forth, but I'm going to move on to Commissioner Bronson. If you think about something else, I'll come back to you.
And
Mr.
just to
Bronson?
clarify, I'm still waiting on the sheriff's office too, because it's not like I'm not going to a meeting. It's just them. But anyway, yeah, that was rude.
Yeah.
But
Commissioner Bronson?
Hey, sir. Thank you guys for that. So in regards to the cure violence and violence interrupters. So part of my question I want to ask is, start looking at the way or the programs that are being put in place for violence interruption. Have we considered maybe a nightlife committee creation that can assist us in that piece? Being that most of the crimes that we're dealing with, even with Navicent, right? When Navicent, something happens at nighttime, right, in the middle of the night, Navicent are the ones that are really going to be dealing with that ER call, that emergency call. So is there any way for us to kind of put together a nightlife committee to kind of assist with the public safety piece to kind of help us? Is that a part of the conversation in this, or am I out of line on this one?
No, I don't think you're out of line at all. I think a lot of people do that. It's been talked about for years and never been done here. There's been various nightlife studies that were done that do best practices, and that's what we use to formulate some of the ordinances we did recently. So certainly at some point in time, it's something I think we can talk about. We all have elections coming up next year with everybody, and we have the sheriff election coming up as well. So there's gonna be a lot of moving pieces. I'd say we do something that's not specific to individuals, but more so mission-driven.
Yes, sir.
So that's certainly a conversation that I'm willing to have, and I think we've got the nightlife study that was done before that could be updated or provided to everyone.
And two more things here. So I know we've already mentioned about tourism in regards to beautification and so forth. I know I mentioned about the closure of Center Street fences. I think that was part of the conversation as well, to avoid, to kind of see some of the illegal dumping. Two areas that come to mind, of course, is going to always be Center Street and then Evergreen. So I want to make sure I put those two on the radar when we start discussing how the funding is being appropriated as far as what areas, particular areas. I want to go on record to say that Center Street and Evergreen really needs to be looked at. And then lastly, regarding going back to the cure violence piece of it, I'm sorry, in regards to the tourism piece, last part, convenience centers, right? How are we going about marketing the convenience centers to kind of assist people and let them know, hey, this is what the convenience center is? I know we push it out here around the Horseshoe, but is that really being marketed? Chris Flores is giving me the evil eye right now. I know your guys do a great job at that piece of it, but outside of these four walls, how does that look? I really want to make sure that citizens understand and are aware of the great things that are happening, and that they know that instead of going to drop it off, somewhere randomly, there's a convenience center that they can go to and take care of that. And then the last part, and I'll leave you alone, I promise. Public safety. Public safety is really close to my heart for a number of reasons. And one of the things that we have been noticing is that there has been a decline in, I'm gonna say, participation when it boils down to personnel deciding whether or not to go and work in Bibb County or another county. And one thing that I do want to bring to this group in future discussions is going about looking at an assistance program, a tuition assistance program. I know Mr. Mayor, you and me spoke about possibly doing about $100,000 out of the ARP funds for that piece of it. But I really would like for us to kind of consider doing an tuition assistance program up to $100,000 to be kind of spread out, of course, for public safety officials starting out, and then from there kind of work our way outside of those realms. But I know outside the programs that we currently have, to include with our school partnership, those programs could be utilized as well for parents to get education as well, because we all know that the more you're educated, the better you are when it boils down to it. So it has to be done strategically, and I think that this administration can really put a dent into what situations we have going here in Bibb County. So, and with that, I'll yield, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Bronson. This time, I'd ask for a vote on item 6A, which is the ARPA funds for 9.353. Ask for a motion to approve. Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Cart, second by Commissioner Tillman. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That motion carries to be sent to consent agenda. We've got 3 items concerning state court, I believe, and others, and Judge Hanson's been patiently waiting on. Hopefully, there's no questions for him, but he's here. And then we have some grants that Ms. Roberts has been patiently waiting on from the Sheriff's Department, and then a couple of installation and dedications, and we have about 20 minutes that we hope to meet. So I'm going to take this item 7A as a resolution of the Macon-Bibb County Commission to authorize the mayor to execute an amendment to the professional services agreement with Step After Evidence-Based Programming LLC to provide an additional 12 months of counseling sessions to participants on SWIFT and certain fair domestic violence probation who have been evaluated for placement in more reconciliation therapy. I said recognitions therapy, I'm sorry. With funds from the SWIFT and certain fair supervision grant. That's a lot to be said. At this time, I entertain a motion for approval. We get a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bronson. Questions? Commissioner Tillman, you got a question?
I had at least 14 questions, but I'm gonna just yield. I'll yield.
I tell you what, I'll let you just say some brief comments, Judge Hanson, about these 3, and then we're going to try to take a vote in block if we can. So,
okay.
Yes, sir.
You may not remember, Swift, Certain, and Fair is a grant that we got from the Department of Justice for domestic violence cases. This is post-adjudication, so after somebody has been convicted or pled guilty to a domestic violence case, we do an evaluation of that person, a clinical evaluation, and get a report from our counselor, who then recommends certain types of conditions to impose. And the main goal of the program was to have that assessment, and then the second goal was to eliminate the barriers for people getting whatever the conditions are satisfied. And so this is money that's being used for those providers of services, which be counseling or the moral recognition therapy.
Out of curiosity, what is your success rate as of right now?
I'll call up Amy Hartley, who's our Chief Probation Officer. She can respond to that.
Hey. Okay. Have we seen a decrease in services across the board? And I'm asking the same question to all the organizations, so be ready for that. Have we seen a decrease in regards to the need for services on that end? And I say it in a good manner, right?
We have fewer people that are being sentenced for this program than when we started.
Okay.
That's what you're asking.
Cool. All right.
We have right now we're doing about 3 a week that go into the program.
All right. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. We do have a motion and second on this particular item. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries to be sent to consent agenda. Item B is a resolution of Macon-Bibb County Commissioner authorizing the mayor to execute an amendment to the professional services agreement with the Southern Center for Choice Theory, LLC, to provide for additional 12-month team term for counseling sessions to participants as well. That's my motion. Can I get a second? Got a second by Commissioner Tillman. Any questions? Hearing no questions, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries to be sent to consent agenda. Item C is a resolution of Macon-Bibb County Commissioner authorizing the mayor to execute an amendment to the professional services agreement with S&K Professionals Limited Liability Company for an additional 12-month term to provide individual counseling service to participants. Can I get a motion to approve?
So move.
Motion by Commissioner Tillman, second by Commissioner Bronson. Any questions regarding that item? Hearing no questions, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries to be sent to consent agenda. Thank you for being here, Judge, tonight.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you, ladies, for being here as well. We'll have that on our 6 o'clock consent agenda as well tonight. We're going to move on to grants. We have 4 grants. The first is ordinance authorizing 8A grant for 2024 local maintenance and improvement grant in the amount of $2,348,646.26, authorizing the acceptance of said funds and appropriating funds for the required 30% local match of $704,593.88 to be paid from 2008 SPOS revenues. This is a 2024. This is just something that we send to the state to get approval. Doesn't mean the roads will get done. Just for the matter of the commissioner's sake, this process takes about 18 months from start to finish. So this is something that's been going on for quite a while. We decided to do a second amount of money that y'all voted on last time. But just keep in mind that we're just now finishing up the roads for 2022, walking that through the process. 2023 of our own money general fund you approved already. This is the 2024 that we sent to the state to get approval, and then we come back and vote on it finally. So at this time, I entertain a motion for approval.
So move.
Motion by Commissioner Bronson. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Wilder. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That motion carries to be sent to consent agenda. The next 3 items are somewhat related, and we have someone from the Sheriff's Department on that. This is item 8B, a resolution of Macon-Bibb County Commission authorizing the acceptance of a 2023 Homeland Security Grant from the Georgia Emergency Management and Homeland Security Agency in the amount of $10,000 with no local match required to be used by the Macon-Bibb County Fire Department for personnel protective equipment. That is not Kim, is it? So at this time, this is a no match from local authorities grant for the fire department. Can we get a motion to approve?
So move.
So moved by Commissioner Bronson, second by Commissioner Tillman. Yes, second?
Commissioner Lucas? No, I mean, I figure you public safety. You public safety king and queen over here.
We're on item B. It says 10,000. I'm sorry, is my page wrong?
I'm ahead of myself.
Okay, my bad.
D.
So was that a second then, Commissioner Tillman?
Yes.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries to be sent to consent agenda. Item C is a resolution of Macon-Bibb County Commission authorizing the acceptance of a BJA fiscal 2023 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant from the Department of Justice, Office of Justice Programs in the amount of $141,817 to be used by the Bibb County Sheriff's Office to expand the current co-sponsor program. Now, would you like to come up and speak? You've been here so patiently waiting. I hate to run through this without you having the opportunity. First of all, if you don't mind, we know who you are, but we want people at home to know who you are. So introduce yourself to us and just give us a little bit of information about items C and D.
Okay, Kim Roberts with the Fiscal Services Director for the Sheriff's Office. Can you hear me? Kim Roberts, Fiscal Services Director for the Sheriff's Office. Is that better? Is that better? Okay, you may be aware that we are in the process of implementing a co-responder program with River Edge. That currently provides a licensed clinician and two other support two other support services personnel. That is all funded by River Edge with assistance funding from the state. This is a separate grant for $141,817. It's a formula grant. The federal government gives us certain amounts. So this is the total amount that the county would be eligible for. And the funds would be used to provide an additional licensed clinician so that we can expand the services that we're currently doing. This would allow us to provide after-hours services. Currently, the program is limited because of the funding, and there's no match required. So it would be completely covered, and it would provide funding for up to 18 months and longer than that if it's not a full-time clinician. The $4,500 one that is separately on item 8D is another one that it's no match required. It's a GEMA grant for our EOD K-9 services. And it's $4,500 to provide equipment and supplies for our EOD K-9 officer.
Any questions for Ms. Roberts? Okay. Item C, we'll take a vote on that. Can I get a motion to approve? Motion by Commissioner Bronson. We have a second. Second by, who's that I heard over there? Lane's quick over there. Elaine, Ms. Lucas. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries to be sent to consent agenda. Item D is the $4,500 that she mentioned there with the GMA as well with Homeland Security, $4,500 with no local match. Can we get a motion to approve? I don't know who did that one. Commissioner Jones had me heard earlier tonight. We'll get him that. You got a second by who? Second by Commissioner Wynn. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries to be sent to consent agenda. Thank you for being here tonight. Item 9A is installation and dedications. Is a resolution of the Macon-Bibb County Commission to approve the installation and dedication of a donated park bench and signage in memory of Susan Davis. And I believe this is going to be at Amerson River Park. Okay. And I'll make that motion. Can I get a second? Second by Commissioner Bronson. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries to be sent to consent agenda. Item B is sponsored by Commissioner Elaine Lucas. This is an ordinance of the Macon-Bibb County Commission designating that portion of Kitchen Street between Lavinia Drive and Mitchell Street as Rancifer Stanley Way in honor of the contributions of Reverends Hosea Rancifer and David Stanley to their community. Appropriation of an amount not to exceed $500 from the general fund balance to the Facilities Management Department for the purchase of material and memorial signage. Commissioner Lucas, would you like to say something in that regard?
Yes, I'd like to, of course, move to approve, but I'll save the brief remarks that I'll make for the 6 o'clock meeting, and I'd like this as a separate item.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, we've got a motion by Commissioner Lucas. We have a second. Second by Commissioner Tillman.
And it's co-sponsored by
Commissioner Bronson. All those in favor of the motion,
district.
please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That motion carries to be sent to consent agenda. The final item prior to executive session, which we don't have a need for, is the additions or changes to the Macon-Bibb County Code. This is an ordinance amending Division 16, Article 6, Chapter 2 of the Macon-Bibb Code of Ordinances to amend the provision governing the administration and operations of the Friends of Rosa Parks Square Board. And I think Ms. Beavers are here to talk about that. Thank you for waiting so patiently. If you don't mind, come to the microphone, identify who you are for those folks at home, and give us a brief synopsis of the changes for this Rosa Parks resolution here.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Mayor Miller, Macon-Bibb County. This is a modification of the Macon-Bibb County Code, the enacting legislation for the Friends of Rosa Parks Square Board. This board was created in 2019 and it fell under the office of the Mayor Pro Tem. Their purpose is to assist the county in the redesign and renovation of the lovely park that we have across the street. And while it is currently under the mayor pro tem, the board has expressed the desire to have it brought under the mayor, as well as I believe the mayor pro tem and the mayor have both expressed the desire to have it under the mayor. So the mayor will have appointment authority. So he'll bring forth nominations to this board, and then this board will confirm or not confirm that nominee. So that's our primary update here. There are a few other changes. The terms of the members used to be for 5 years. However, because we want to keep new ideas fresh and coming into the board, I've updated that upon request to a 2-year term, which is a little bit more manageable for those citizens who volunteer for the boards. Our citizens don't receive any payment or benefit other than knowing that they've helped out their community for serving on boards. So this is a little bit more manageable for most citizens to join.
Got a motion to approve by Commissioner Tillman. Do we have a second? Second by Mayor Pro Tem Clark. Any questions? Hearing no questions, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries, will be sent to consent agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, the time is, looks like 5, I can't see the clock, 53. We're gonna adjourn this meeting. We'll be back here at 6 o'clock for the regular commission meeting. Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Macon-Bibb County Commission meeting. Tonight is our regularly scheduled meeting, and we'd like to welcome everyone here. The time is now 6:05, and today is October the 3rd, 2023. Those of you that can and will, please stand. We're going to lead our meeting off like we normally do with a call to order, followed by the prayer. We have our pastor, E.J. Durham, here from Covenant Church of Christ. Pastor Durham, if you don't mind coming over to the podium there. Followed by the prayer, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll begin our meeting. You're good.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for your grace and your mercy that has allowed us to be a part of this day today. And as we have all gathered to leave our lasting imprint upon society, we pray, Father, that you would bless every member of this committee with the wisdom that is needed to handle every task that is ahead of us, so that at the conclusion of this meeting, it ends in peace and progress. In your matchless name we pray and ask these things. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pastor Durham, thank you for being here tonight. Good to see you again, sir. Okay. I'm not aware of any announcement we have. We do have a presentation tonight, and I'll ask Commissioner Lane Lucas to come forward on a proclamation proclaiming October as Pedestrian Safety Month.
Good evening. I'd like to, at this time, ask all the members of the Pedestrian Safety Review Board, if you would come forward, please. It's my great honor and pleasure to read and present this proclamation, which is being issued by the mayor. So if you'll join the group over there. This is a proclamation from the office of the mayor, Macon-Bibb County, Georgia, and it reads, whereas I am pleased to join with the Macon-Bibb Pedestrian Safety Review Board to designate October as a month with emphasis on pedestrian well-being and security. And whereas walking and biking are healthy modes of travel that are environmentally friendly, and Macon-Bibb has embraced the principle that people should be able to safely circulate throughout the community without automobiles. And whereas walkability is a positive attribute of our community, and Macon-Bibb and the Macon-Bibb Pedestrian Safety Review Board are committed to realizing the Complete Streets Initiative. And whereas Macon-Bibb Pedestrian Safety Review Board believes we are all pedestrians, and it is important to pay attention to what is going on around us. And drivers must remember that crosswalks exist at every intersection, whether painted or not, and we must be vigilant, ensuring the safety of pedestrians. And whereas Macon-Bibb is committed to promoting the benefits of pedestrian activities with a focus on safety and various modes of transportation to school, home, and work. Now, therefore, the mayor, the Honorable Lester M. Miller, along with also the elected members, the 9 elected members of the commission, do hereby proclaim October 2023 as Pedestrian Safety Month in Macon, Bibb County. And the mayor and all of my colleagues on the commission all urge all citizens in Macon-Bibb County to recognize and promote the importance of pedestrian safety during this entire month and during the entire year. In witness whereof, the mayor has hereunto set his hand and caused the seal of the unified government to be affixed. Mayor, I present this proclamation for you to submit to issue to the Pedestrian Safety Review Board. Greg Brown is the chair of Pedestrian Safety Review Board.
Thank you all, Mayor and the Commission, for acknowledging National Pedestrian Safety Review, National Pedestrian Safety Month. The Pedestrian Safety Review Board will be working diligently throughout the rest of this month and even after this month. So we will be located throughout the community, Gray Highway area at Shirling, Riverside Drive, and Spring Street, and also 2 areas along Pionono Avenue. We'll be out just providing outreach materials and the safety armbands, flashing armbands to the pedestrians. And we also would just like to invite all of the commissioners, community leaders here who are here today to just look at the schedule, and if you're able to come out and volunteer with us and be a part of the outreach activities, please do so. So thank you all so much. You're welcome.
All right, we'll go ahead and move on to the approval of the minutes. Item 6A is approval of the minutes from the September 19th, 2023 commission meeting. That's my motion. Can I get a second? Second by Commissioner Tillman. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. All righty, that motion carries. We have no comments on agenda items, old business or new business, but we will have a consent agenda, and we're going to move aside item 0 separately. That's a ordinance of the Macon-Bibb County Commission that Commissioner Lucas was going to, you want to say more about that? This is an ordinance of the Macon-Bibb County Commission designating that portion of Kitchen Street between Livonia Drive and Mitchell Street as Rancifer Stanley Way in honor of the contributions of Reverends Hosea Rancifer and David Stanley to their community. Appropriation of an amount not to exceed $500 from the general fund balance to the Facilities Management Department for the purchase of material and memorial signage. That is sponsored by Commissioner Lucas. It passed in our earlier commission meeting tonight. And at this time, I'd ask Commissioner Lucas if you'd like to make some comments.
Thank you. The church is located in the area that I previously represented, so I still claim it. And I don't mean any disrespect at all to Commissioner Brunson in authoring this or having our legal department, and thank you very much for working on this. But Commissioner Brunson and I are jointly sponsoring this. We encourage other members of the commission to also sign on as co-sponsors. At this time, we have 2 representatives from Union Baptist Church, Reverend David Stanley, who is a big cheerleader for East Side Out Loud. And we also have Deacon Jerome Brazil, I believe, who is also going to speak. So if, with your permission, we'd like to call on these 2 gentlemen. And before they speak, I want to salute Union Baptist Church for staying. It's one of the largest congregations in Macon-Bibb, but they chose to build and renovate, remain on the east side of town and do their new family life / recreation / all of that in East Macon, and so we salute you for doing that. So if those two gentlemen would come, and then the others who are here from the church, if you would come and stand behind them as they speak. Would you come now, Reverend? I didn't know it was going to be the whole audience, but that's all right.
Thank y'all for being here tonight. Don't leave when we pass the offering plate around.
All right.
Reverend Stanley, thank you for being here, and Deacon Brazil, thank you for being here tonight. And it's our honor, and I do thank Commissioners Lane Lucas and Paul Bronson for sponsoring this, and certainly it passed earlier, but we'd like to hear from you. Both of you have asked to speak tonight, so we'll give you some time to speak before we take our final vote.
Thank you, sir, and I'm going to try to do what we do at funerals. 3 minutes, please. We want to salute you and honor you as the mayor of our great city. Certainly, we want to thank Commissioner Lucas and Commissioner Bronson, amen, for coming out front and spearheading this honor. To the other commissioners, thank you for signing off on it and giving your consent. I stand here right now to represent a Union Baptist Church as best as I can. I've been serving them for 36 years. I stand on the shoulders of one of the honorees, the late Dr. H.R. Rancifer. He was a civil rights person. He served the East Macon and Macon community at large for many years. He served with those legendary preachers, E.S. Evans, Van J. Malone, Reverend Stenson, and many of them have already been honored the way that you all are making ready to honor him. So I thank God for you all and for you all giving the consent to this honor, and I'm going to cherish it for the rest of my life. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Deacon?
And we would just like to say thank you for all the great work that you do in representing the city of Macon. You all make Macon the best place to live on earth. We want to say thank you for honoring our 4 leaders who have done a marvelous job. History would not be nothing if it didn't have some strength and vitality behind it. We have the strength, we got the vitality, and you all got our support. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
So at this time, we had a motion and a second by Commissioners Lucas and Bronson. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That motion carries unanimously, and thank you very much. We look forward to having a formal ceremony at an appropriate time. Thank you.
All right.
Sure.
Everybody.
Everybody? All right.
We'll paste your picture in, okay? All right.
All right, we got a motion. We need a motion to approve the consent agenda, items A through P. At this time, entertain a motion to approve by Mayor Pro Tem Clark. We have a second. Second by Commissioner Jones. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries. We have a few people who have signed up to speak regarding non-agenda items, so we're going to move on to that in just a second. Ms. Jackie Glover wanted to speak on accessibility. Ms. Glover, thank you for being back tonight. If you don't mind going over to the podium. You good with theirs? Just stay right there, Ms. Glover. We'll bring it back. He's coming down. Followed by her, we'll have Mr. Wade Horton, and then we'll have Ms. Sarah Jones will be the final party. All right, you may begin.
I'm here to talk about accessibility. I don't know whether the city has a commission on disability anymore. They used to have one, but one thing today and yesterday, trying to find how you sign up to speak online. I'm not saying it's not there. I couldn't find it. But the thing is, there's a certain way to put it in so it would be accessible to us. And that is what I'm here to speak about, because I've discovered there are quite a few things that are not really accessible to people that are blind, because we've got to be able to use that and have like my phone, my iPad, my computer, it's got to be able to pick up and read this information. And so I haven't been able to find where you actually sign in before you come down here and speak. And I think there need to be a few things done to help people that are disabled to be able to better access your information. When we were doing that, we went down the list. We actually saw the rules that we are governed by, but we didn't see where we actually signed up at. I mean, we went through all of this stuff, and it wasn't there. Now, I don't know whether y'all have anybody on staff in the government that actually work with making things accessible, but it would be of great help if it would be done that way. Because when we come down here, we all walking around trying to find somebody to sign us up to speak. And it would be of great help if we didn't have to do that. If we could just go to our computer, go to our phone or whatever, and do it and send it online. We have accessible machines. And I just think it would help a lot. And what I'm discovering is there's quite a few things in Macon that are not really accessible. And I've been having people to come to me as, this wasn't anybody in Macon, but before I left my house today, I had somebody calling me, I can't access my computer. And I said, well, okay, just hold on. I told her, I said, I'll talk to you in the morning about accessing your computer. So there are a lot of people here that have computers, and we need to be able to access information that is in the community. And it would be of great help if y'all would work on that. And also, it would be of great help if you could develop a commission of people, not just for the blind, but for the total disabled community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Glover. Mr. Wade Horton. Mr. Horton wanted to talk about Macon-Bibb Transit Response 2 letter. I assume this is part 2 of your series last month. So last meeting. So thank you for being here tonight. I haven't started your time yet. I'll wait till you get set up. I know you're going to be swift tonight, and I'll take the whole 5 minutes. So I want to start your time now, sir. Go ahead.
Do my best. And just to piggyback on what she said, there are some very nice people that have been here to help us sign in, and we really appreciate that effort because it means the world when someone helps you out. Last transit meeting, I noticed something when I was there, and that they went into what you guys call executive session. And I'm sure going into executive session, they were talking about some private information, maybe responding to some employee things that may have happened, or they could be speaking about some legal matters that the public doesn't need to know right now. And I noticed the last time I was here that you guys went into executive session, and I'm sure that you were trying to do the same thing. You was talking about some issues that the public should not know at that point because of privacy to the individuals that may be involved or litigation that we don't need to know about. Which leads me to the Mallory Jones endorsement letter of Craig Ross. The first Tuesday in September, according to that letter, it said that Craig Ross gave some information out about Rick Jones, that he was the reason that the Transit Authority had some financial problems at the time. And I'm sure that when his tenure at the Transit Authority was determined, it was done in an executive meeting and not in a public forum, because I never heard it, and I was at all of the meetings during that time. Yet, this information that should have been executive privileged information to the Transit Authority was given to a member of the body, this body, and was read in response to me saying that nothing happens at the Transit Authority without Craig Ross. That should not have happened. You're willing to do unethical things about giving out information about current or former employees to prove a point. That should have never happened. When you go into executive meetings, you guys go in there for a reason, because the information that you're discussing is executive privileged information.
1 minute.
This information was given out on the letter that was to endorse Craig Ross, that was written, I assume, by someone of this body. That should never have happened. Someone who has experience on the commission should know that executive privilege information should not be given out, and it was given out to the whole entire city of Macon, Georgia. Now, next time when I come, I'm going to explain why Rick Jones was not the cause of the financial problem at the Transit Authority. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Horton. We're going to move on to Ms. Sarah Jones. Ms. Sarah Jones would like to speak about Ryland Services. Ms. Jones, thank you for being here tonight. If you don't mind speaking to that microphone, I know you had some concern about your trash service, so we're going to hear from you for up to 5 minutes.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes, I've been having a problem with Ryland since June. I cut limbs and put them out to the curb, and they refuse to come pick them up. I mean, I've had limbs out there on my curb now since August the 2nd, and they still there. I have called, I've done C-click fix, and nothing is being done. So I'm sure they're getting paid, but I'm not getting my service. You know, and I mean, I'm paying for service, but I'm not getting it. And then another thing I want to speak on is over in I live in the Crestfield subdivision up from Central Georgia Technical College. Nobody is cutting the grass on the curves. All the storm drains are broken and just full of debris and trash. I mean, when you ride through there, it looks like you're going into a forest. I walked by the other day, and some of the weeds are as tall as I am. I mean, nothing is getting done. And everybody hollering about keep making beautiful. You can't keep making beautiful if nobody's doing their job. So that's what I'm here about tonight. I mean, somebody need to do something. Somebody need to get up and do what they're supposed to do because it's not being done.
Ms. Jones, thank you for being here tonight. Of course, we don't have conversations back and forth, but I would ask you before you leave to make sure I have your address. A lot of times you may believe that you did what you were supposed to out there right, but these, when you cut this debris out there, it has to be a certain amount and a certain length.
I understand that.
I just want to make sure that, but I will get a picture of it myself and make sure it's done. But Ryland has done a wonderful job for our community, and every time we bring an issue to them, they address that issue. But a lot of times we have to educate folks on the length, the width, and the size of these things. And it turns out that most every time that I contact them, it's a customer that hasn't done what they're supposed to get it ready to be picked up. That goes through a different process. Your question about the storm drains is not this body, it's the Macon Water Authority, so you can address them. They have these same forms like we do today to give you an opportunity to do that. But
Now,
before you
who's
leave,
responsible for all the high weeds and stuff on the
depends
curb?
on if it's a local road or a state road, or whether it's on the right of way, or whether it's Georgia Power. There's multiple things, but you came here tonight, so I want to try to give you some assistance. But we'll get your address before you leave to make sure, take care of that pile for you. We just want to make sure that we also include a copy of what the provisions are that's supposed to be done for that. So thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that completes our business tonight for this. Commissioner Commissioner Bronson, you got something, point of personal privilege?
Yes, sir. I just want to say, this past Monday, we had 12 JRTC cadets and 4 instructors had the honor of taking these personnel from 6 different schools up to Washington, D.C. to visit the Pentagon, and had an opportunity to speak with Brigadier General Terrence Adams. He's the Director of Cyber Intelligence and Operations, and also the Deputy Chief of Staff for the intelligence organization itself. So I do want to thank Bibb County School System for seeing the vision. Dr. Cassandra Washington, the CTAE Director, and of course our Superintendent, Dr. Dan Sims. Man, he gonna jump at me about that later on, I see it. The Brothers of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity, and of course Contour Airlines for supporting the initiative. And just to the community itself, we want to do our best to encourage our students, our cadets to get involved in different programs throughout the Bibb County school system. I, for one, am a big advocate for the ROTC program itself. So if you are a parent that has a child in high school or about to enter into high school, by all means, please, please, please research the GRTC program. It is an amazing program with great opportunities. And as a commissioner sitting in this seat right now, I want to do all I can to support those students and support the program itself. So I just want to say thank you for Bibb County.
Sorry about
that. Y'all cut the mic on me.
Thank you for those comments, Mr. Bronson. Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. Just want to inform everyone that we will not have a meeting next Tuesday, the 10th. We'll return for our regular meeting on the 17th. The 10th, we have 4 commissioners that are doing some training away from us, so we'll come back on the 17th for our pre-commission and our commission meeting. So we look forward to seeing you then. This meeting is hereby adjourned.